Thank you.
Mr Speaker.
Eugenie Sage.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Very pleased to take a call on the New Zealand Horticulture Export Authority Amendment Bill. Now, I do agree with the previous speaker, Mr Smith, that how we market to the consumer is crucial to growing the value of our horticultural exports. It's also crucial to increasing the return to growers, to packhouse operators and to exporters. And this bill is a small step towards doing that, because it is providing a structure for minimum recognised quality standards and an ability to coordinate marketing through export marketing strategies and export licensing. But, Mr Speaker, if this government was genuinely interested in helping the horticultural sector more seriously, then A, it would have progressed this bill much more quickly. It's been 5 years in the making, and the Horticulture Export Authority even had a diagram in one of its most recent annual reports which showed a snail to highlight the very slow progress with the bill since consultation started in 2010. So it has been significantly delayed when it could have been introduced and dealt with much more quickly. The other way, and one of the other ways in which the government has failed to respond to the needs of the horticultural sector is because the Horticulture Export Authority has long called for country of origin labelling for fresh fruit and vegetable products, because it believes that this would benefit quality production. Yet the national government has resolutely opposed this, and it could have been dealt with in this bill. We don't have mandatory country of origin labelling, unlike Australia. In Australia, any food product must identify the country of origin of whatever makes up more than 50% of the total production cost of the product. And because we don't have it, that means that fruit and vegetable products in our local shops don't have to have any identification on them as to where they come from. Certainly some supermarkets have done this voluntarily, but it does mean that local producers are put at risk when we have scares, as we did in December 2015, when we had a hepatitis A scare that was traced back to imported berries, but consumers in New Zealand couldn't choose local berries and know that they were getting safe berries because we didn't have country of origin labelling, and so potentially local producers lost out. If we had the same rules as Australia, if there was proper legislation that was wider in scope than this one, that would make life simpler both for food manufacturers and for exporters who were sending their products to both markets. And given that New Zealand's quite a small market, it would make more sense if the food producers were doing it on that wider scale, so they didn't have to just change their labels just for us. So, Mr Speaker, that's one area where this bill has failed. Another area generally where the government is failing the horticultural sector is because it hasn't taken notice of the Horticulture Export Authority and it highlighting in its most recent annual report that there's an increasing focus on sustainability in markets around the world. We like to think of ourselves as clean and green. We like to have that as a basis for marketing a lot of our primary produce. Yet we are failing to keep up with the international interest and commitment in this area. In Ireland, for example, Origin Green has been established there by the Irish Food Board. It was established in 2012, and it's a whole strategy around sustainability for food. And it aims to shift Ireland's agri-food business from one that's focused on low-value commodities, as we are here in New Zealand, to a much greater focus on what consumers want and to being a world leader in the market for premium products and getting a bigger value share from those markets. Origin Green in Ireland is a voluntary national scale program. It's coordinated by their food board, and it involves around 55,000 Irish farms and 95% of food and drink producers. Each of those has a 5-year sustainability plan. It's got measurable targets for producers to reduce their environmental impacts and also to provide social benefits to local communities and to make their businesses more sustainable. Those sustainability plans are independently audited annually through the board's quality assurance scheme. So in Ireland, they are focusing on meeting consumer demands for high quality, safe food that is sustainably produced. And they are leaving us for dead in terms of their commitment to sustainability. So it's one initiative that the Green Party would look to potentially review and introduce here, because we want a much stronger commitment to sustainability across the agricultural sector. In terms of some of the comments made by previous speakers, Mr McKelvey commented about how we want to see more land used for horticulture in New Zealand. We would certainly agree with that, but it is not environmental constraints which are preventing that. What it is the inflated prices for dairy land. Dairy prices are inflated, or dairy land prices are inflated because dairying is not meeting or considering its externalities in terms of water pollution and climate pollution. If agriculture was brought into the emissions trading scheme, if dairying had to recognise that it has costs for the environment, then land prices, and it was having to pay for those costs through being part of the ETS, then land prices would decline, and it would be much more affordable to have much more diverse land uses, not just for horticulture, but also for things like forestry. So again, green policy to bring agriculture into a regime where it accounts for its greenhouse emissions would help horticulture expand, because it would help bring our inflated land prices down. So, Mr Speaker, this is a small and useful bill, but it only takes a very small step in terms of marketing strategies. It doesn't really tackle the barriers to the horticultural sector expanding. Those include bringing land prices down, having a long-term strategy for sustainability in the sector, and ensuring that we actually have all food production and fibre production sectors taking their greenhouse gas emissions into account. And that's the sort of more innovative, more comprehensive initiatives that we would get with the Green Party being part of a progressive government next year.